This is going to be a video on how to disarm an airbag on a 2009 Maserati Gran Turismo. First thing, I already have the trunk open. We have to disconnect the battery, so I'm going to take this cover off. There's another cover that covers the battery. These two screws have already been removed. So I'm going to take this off. Now that reveals the battery. The only thing we have to do right now is take off this connection right here. I'm going to bring the camera in a little bit closer so you can see me do this. I'm going to take this old lever, flip it back. That loosens the negative cable. Wiggle it. And lay it back out of the way. We're going to leave the battery disconnected for approximately 10 minutes, and then we'll continue with removing the airbag. All right, I'm going to be replacing this steering wheel on this 2009 Maserati Gran Turismo. The reason why I'm changing it is because the leather right above the airbag on the steering wheel is kind of warped. Due to heat, or I don't know why, but anyway, I've got another wheel I'm going to be putting on it. So right now, I already have the battery disconnected, so the airbag will be disarmed. So the next step is going to be getting the wheel in the right place so we can disconnect the airbag. Well, let me get this stuck on the windshield here so we can see what I'm doing here. I'm using this little gadget that holds my camera. What I'm going to do here, I've got this stuck through. I'm going to turn the steering wheel first all the way this way. And what we're going to see here is there is a small hole. Let's see if we get this moved. There's a small hole right here. Let's see if I can zoom in. There's a small hole on both sides of the steering wheel. And what it's going to do, it's going to disconnect the airbag. And what I'm going to use right now, I'm using just a standard little cheapo screwdriver. A little bit longer than a pocket screwdriver. What I'm going to stick this in the hole right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it down. Let me grab the camera so I can show it a little better. So I got the screwdriver in that hole right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down toward the column and push in. What this is going to do, it's going to make contact. There's a spring inside the steering wheel which holds the airbag. So when I push this down, you'll feel it when I lift up, When I lift up, you'll feel a spring action. So let me put this back on the windshield so you can see what I'm doing. Move it up a little higher. All right, maybe. See what I'm doing here. So now I'm going to lift up. I'm going to push down at first, then lift up on the screwdriver. I'm lifting up with the screwdriver once it's put it all the way in the hole. And then I'm going to pull out on the airbag a little bit. Okay, this side of the airbag is disconnected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the wheel back the other way. And there's the hole again on this side. Put the screwdriver through, push toward the column, push down the screwdriver, then shove the screwdriver all the way until it makes contact, and then pull straight up, and you'll feel a spring disconnect. All right, both of these. I got the clips loose. I'm going to pull the bag back. What you're going to see here, that and that is being held in by that spring clip that you relieved with the screwdriver. So once those two are released, we got to disconnect the electrical connectors on the airbag. I'm going to try to zoom in a little farther so we can get a good shot of this. Move my camera a little bit. See if I can zoom in a little more. All right, there is, hopefully you can see that, the clips. You got to take a little pocket screwdriver, lift up on the tab, disconnect the yellow, lift up on the tab on the green. These are safety tabs. These keep the electrical connector intact with the airbag. Here are those little tabs. What it's doing here is there's a spring holding this in. So when we lift up, we're moving the spring back. And I'll show you when I get the steering wheel all the way off. Next thing we have to do, we have to disconnect this wire connector that goes to the steering column. So this white connector and this black connector. And what I need to do, you don't need to take the tape off. This tape over here does not need to come off. If you flip this over, you're going to see a little hole right here, a little square. Push down. And the connector is now out. This goes through the column. This stays with the steering wheel. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little black clip off. Take any screwdriver, just pry up underneath it. Comes right out. Just sticks over top of that nut right there. You can see it's got a hex pattern in it. And just set it aside. Then next thing we're going to do, I'm going to mark this thing, even though it's marked here on the column. I'm going to take a black marker and put it at 12 o'clock. A little Sharpie. I'm going to mark the column. And I'm going to mark approximately where that nut, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to put that nut a little bit right of this. Gives me an idea about where I need to be. It's going to be, just so I know when I torque it down, it's at least to here. So now it's a 22 millimeter. 22 millimeter, I'm going to take let me show you what I'm using. I'm using this 1/2 inch drive, Snap-on. It's a little overkill, but it makes it easier to break things loose. So I'm going to put the ratchet on here. Back this thing off a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Kind of hard to do this with this tripod in my lap. Alright, nuts loose. Spin this thing. Nuts out. Put to the side. I don't even know if I can see my mark. That's around here somewhere. Alright, now, all we gotta do now is, there's a washer on the bottom of this thing. Just lift straight up. It's that simple. Okay, I don't want to lose this washer, so I'm going to grab it. I'm trying to hold on to the camera at the same time. I had to change this so I could set the tripod up. All right, nuts off, washers out. Now, I need to pull these wires through when I pull the steering wheel out. All you do is simply just lift, and what you want to do is you want to make sure these wires pull through nice and easily so we don't damage this thing called the clock spring behind the steering wheel. So I'm pulling all these wires through, these 3 wires. And this thing we don't want to damage right here, this clock spring. All right, that's going to stay up at 12 o'clock. All right, wheels out. Here's the clock spring. This clock spring looks like a ribbon inside. If you looked up a gift wrap ribbon, all it is a wire that allows you to turn the wheel left and right. Because if you only had a short piece of wire, every time you turn the wheel, you would disconnect the wires or rip the wires out of the column. Well, this clock spring, allows me to have my airbag wires and all my steering wheel controls run through the column, and I can turn the wheel left and right without breaking the wires. So clock spring, very important. If this thing breaks, you'll have an airbag light. Airbag won't work or may work, and you'll lose control of your steering wheel operation. Okay, we are now putting put the wheel back on the car. So first thing I have to do is, I don't know if you can see this square hole right here. We need to feed these wires back through it. So put the airbag wires through first. Oh, little trick. Remember those clips we pulled out earlier to release the airbag? Put those back in because it makes it easier to feed them through the hole both ways. I should have said that earlier, but I didn't. So feed that one through. Feed the next one through. Finally, feed the steering wheel control wire back through. Kind of a pain in the butt. But once they're through, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the connector goes straight through this thing. You really don't want to pull. Just be very, very, very careful here. All right, so we're coming through. All right, all the wires are coming through. Okay, now you want to make sure that you get that connector dead nuts in the middle of that thing because you don't want to hurt that clock spring. And another thing I should have told you, I turned the key off so it locked the column. So my column's locked. I'm going to move it again so I can, I'm dead up 12 o'clock right now. So right now I got the wheel kind of just sitting in there loosely and my wires are good. So now all I got to do, gonna put that nut on now, nut and washer, and then we'll tighten it down. Washer goes on next. Move these stupid wires out of my way so you can see, so I can see what I'm doing. And then nut. Nuts in. Now I'm again 22 millimeter socket and a ratchet or some kind of, I'm using a 1/2 inch drive, makes things makes life a little easier. See where we're at. All right, I need to turn that another, I don't know. Black lines lined up. I don't know if you can see it. It's right in there. That line right there. So I'm at least torqued the same amount. Then I got to put the plastic cup back over this thing. You don't really hear a snap, it just kind of just pushes in. You'll feel it kind of, there, that's in now. Right before I put the airbag in, don't forget we have to plug this piece back in, this electrical connector which controls everything. And if you can see, God, it's hard to see in this thing, it's so dark. There is a little clip in the top of the steering wheel on both sides, and you want to run this wire up in here like this. I took it out, push this in. There's another clip over on this side. This keeps this wire, I guess, up high and tight. Let's try to put this side in first, maybe. I have to get a screwdriver. I'm about to put this tripod back over here so I can hold this. Wait a minute, I'll put it in my lap so we can see what we're doing here. Alright, so here is, again, I'm trying to push this back up in here. This thing is tight. All right, finally. So I've got that tucked all back in there. And you can see now, it's pretty cool. See if I can zoom up in there. Here, and here's the clip. That's done. Now, let's put the airbag back in this thing before my battery dies. Unbelievable. So, we got 2 more wires to hook up. I've got these, the safety clips already undone in the back. So I'm gonna hook up the green first. And put the safety in it. And yellow. Put the safety back in it. And we're ready to put the bag back in it. So, hopefully, looks pretty good. Leather's not perfect like I thought it would be. It's still a little bulged compared to my other one though. It looks night and day. Looks a lot better. So that's it. Airbags back in the car. Hopefully we'll start this thing up. Let's hook the battery up next. Let's hook the battery back up and check it out. I'm gonna hook the negative cable back up. Make sure it's pushed down all the way and then push the latch back and put all my covers back on. Cover, screws, the whole 9 yards. And then we'll go back. We'll check this thing and see if this thing is. All right, there we go. Turn the key on. See if everything works. We'll check the, let's see here. Wait for the radio to turn on. See if everything works. Check on my buttons. All right, that's working. Voice command works.
Sorry.
Call log works. Mute works. Source works. Let's see if the navigation works in the back. These are the only switches I didn't change, the ones in the back. Yeah, that one works. Let's see the other one. All right, so far everything's working. All right, all switches work. No lights, we're good.